So the other day I made a video presenting an idea that we're living in some sort of dark ages. Now before I begin this video, I'd really like to thank you guys for all the input. There were so many great comments that bounced off my points, countered them, questioned them, and surprisingly a lot of agreement as well. Of course, I have my way of speaking, and for some, the points that I was trying to make didn't get through. So I'd like to clear some stuff up before I continue forward with this video. Firstly, I don't really have a worldview. I've bounced from religion to atheism to nihilism back to the metaphysical too many times to believe we already have one way of thinking that works. It seems to me that every single individual has their own personal way of looking at the world, and those can line up perfectly and sometimes they don't. What I think is important is that we share our craziest thoughts with one another so that we can help ourselves and those around us better understand what the hell is going on here. I don't know why I'm so fascinated with finding out who we are, why we're here, what this universe is, and I'll be the first to tell you that I will be wrong for the rest of my life. I'll make mistakes my entire life, but if I never challenge these ideas, if I never let them out to be stomped on, then I'll never grow. Which is why I can't thank you all enough for these wonderful replies. So without further ado, let's make a Console Peasant quote style video with some of the comments here and see if we can't meet on some common ground. Now I want to get the mistakes in the video out of the way. Firstly, my math. 417 million people all get $1 million? Oops. $1,000 would have made a lot more sense here, but I also want to make sure that the point isn't lost. I wasn't saying that America should give each citizen $1 million. That wouldn't be the best idea for the economy. We'd have to make up for the inflation at that point, people would be shocked with a kind of shift like that, and I think people took that one a little too literally. Speak for yourself, Barry, on those religious points. God damn it, I'll get to that soon. What I was trying to illustrate with the money point is that we have a lot of it. We have a lot of it sorted through many different government budgets. What I'm annoyed by is the government talks about fixing the world hunger issue, fixing the poverty issue. We believe every life is equal and has the right to food, water, and shelter, but we're not going to help. See, it annoys me that we can't just be honest with our people. Yeah, we have a lot of money we could use to help out if our priorities were on helping these people, but instead we're going to use the majority of our money to kill each other. Have a nice day. The second mistake I made was the part regarding science. I stated that there's more matter now than there ever was a few billion years ago, and that this is happening more rapidly. Upon further research, I ended up with articles regarding antimatter and why there's more matter than antimatter, articles regarding dark matter and dark energy, but I couldn't find anything supporting my claim until I stumbled upon photon pair production, which, if you're interested, I'll link in the description, but also doesn't exactly support me because this is energy being condensed into matter, which neither adds or removes anything. So I was just flat wrong. And the rest of my points in that whole bit were just me complaining that we don't know anything. I do, however, want to repeat this point. We study a universe. We study the laws of nature. Consciousness, perception, subjectivity are all aspects of this universe. We ourselves use them every single day. And yes, we don't know much about them, but I wonder if our devotion to the objective is what's hindered our progression for these areas of study. Why limit ourselves to the objective? We can absolutely have it, but it seems there's more going on here than repeatable happenstance. I'm fascinated by the mind, however, and this might be hindering me, holding me back. Our minds are powerful, yes, but it has in the past instilled beliefs in witches and sorcery and live human sacrifice, and I'm just not interested in going that far. See, it's kind of hard doing this all on your own, trying to figure out which of the things I've been told are lies and what's real. I used to believe time was objectively real. I used to believe that there was such a thing as right and wrong or money. But these are nothing more than thoughts, concepts that granted can help us. But I've also heard so many philosophers say that they had to leave civilization for a few years and go study the laws of nature for themselves, and that when they returned, it became blatantly obvious to them that we have greatly lost track. Now, when you hear something like this, you can have a few different reactions. You can get pissy and instantly discredit these people, or you can go out and start testing the waters yourself, which is more or less what I've been trying to do lately. Like I said earlier, I'll be wrong for a very long time, but this is how this works. You enter into the world stupid, and hopefully you leave a little less stupid. Let's start getting to those replies. Our first one is from Cool Man, who has a couple points that I wanted to tackle. He says, "Long-time viewer here. These types of videos from you are my favorite. That said, you asked us to argue with you, so... As an overall response with your view on religion, I think that your view on religion assumes that it's a bit more authoritarian than it might be. True, religion can be used to control the masses, but more often than not, I view religious leaders genuinely believe what they preach. This is admittedly a point from personal experience, but given your views about subjective experiences at around 1149, you shouldn't have too much of a problem with that. So, if I may, and please don't hate me here, I don't say this because I hate religion or anything, and I know I've been guilty of lumping them all together, which isn't fair, but when I speak of religion, and I mostly refer to Western capitalist-based religions, this is what I see. Whether both parties know it or not, it's filled with people who tell you how to think. This is who you can marry, these are the sexual positions you're allowed to use, circumcision's a topic of moral controversy, does it hinder sexual sensitivity in males? Speaking of moral controversy, telling children that you're certain, that you have no doubt that if they don't obey, that they'll burn in hell forever, is that moral? You cannot possibly know for sure if what you're spewing is true. You might believe it, but to say something like that, to me, is unexcusable. Then you have the Bible instilling ideas like men over women, slavery, thought crime. God says if you think wrong, you've sinned, which to me screams men wanted power and control over each other. Don't even think wrong. Are you serious? Again, I know not all religions are like this. I'm mostly talking about Western religions that seem to have just copied or borrowed from anywhere they can and are out for money. Anyone who wants to talk about God is fine. I have no issues with metaphysical topics. I just recognize that these organizations seem to have bigger motives than enlightening the population. He goes on to say, here you state that we are too quick to state certain things to be objective fact, and we don't take subjective experience into account as much as we should. I'm not 100% sure what types of subjective experiences you're referencing here, but my guess is some sort of spiritual experience, possibly related to psychedelics. I don't generally perceive scientific studies dismissing these, just stating that they're due to some neurochemical thingamabob stuff. Right, and I'm more than happy with an answer like, well, when you take a psychedelic, it instills neuroplasticity, which allows the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, which makes things like learning new things, getting out of old routines, or addictive habits easier. However, I also have a feeling that there's more going on. I say this because these things have an odd track record. For example, let's say someone was addicted to opiates. Psychedelics have been shown to cure the addiction with one dose and even leaves the person without withdrawal symptoms in many cases. Stranger yet, the patient will have a higher chance of beating the addiction if they have what's known as a mystical experience, from about an 80% chance of curing their addiction to 90% simply because of the experience they underwent. Why the hell is that aspect of the drug so important for the cure? These are the kinds of questions that science doesn't seem interested in covering. We have the objective, and that's great, but we're more than objective beings, and healing can happen simply because we believe it's happening. Placebos are an excellent example of this, and if you'd like to see placebos put to the test, I'll link a Mindfield episode on the power of suggestion that I feel would help illustrate my point. This next question is by two different people. In this video, you talk about how the structures of our society need to be changed, or that they must evolve to get with the times. What would you propose would be a better functioning structure for society? You seem to support an anarcho-leftist philosophy, but my question is, how would a world like this even function? How would you go about building a utopia, Barry? God, those are good questions, and I guess I put myself in the situation I did by going into all this. See, I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect system. The way I see the world would be perfect for me. I'd have it set up so that everybody looked at each other as brothers and sisters. We're all the same, all people, and there are going to be crappy people every now and then. I imagine I'm walking down the road and I see an old guy painting a fence. I yell out, "Hey, need some help?" And I walk over and help the guy out. By the time we're done, there are 8 of us willingly helping this one guy, and the fence is done in no time. We see someone getting sexually assaulted or beaten, we go do something about it. Make it family-oriented. People are so quick to call the cops and get enforcement involved, and then it escalates to jail and fines. If we just teach each other through genuine human experience and interaction, if we weren't so afraid to talk to one another, we wouldn't need any of this system at all. We could take care of it, and we want to make something great? Get enough of us together and we all get it done. Now this works in my head because I'm an extrovert. I'm good with words, and for the most part, I can talk to anybody without issue. So living in a world where we just say what's on our minds is all I'd ever want. But for others, that's hell. This next comment's from German American Mapping. Hi, so I don't really agree with this video on a few points. You say a lot of people are usually nice to each other, but then also say that people are selfish and stupid in the same video. This is kind of minor, but I wanted to point out that this is an example of how you seem to just make a bunch of points here without considering how they invalidate one another. So this is what I've noticed about people. If you met someone who had no job, no social status that they're trying to uphold, they're not putting on a character to try to impress you because they have flashy cars or Rolex watches, he's just a dude. And if you offer a genuine interaction, you'd more than likely have a nice chat. Now put yourself in front of a person whose social status is raised, has money, nice cars, big house, and he will talk down to you. He'll treat you as though you're smaller. Oftentimes, you won't get as genuine a character out of someone whose life goal has been to dick everyone else over so that they can reach the top. It's not people who are selfish and stupid. We developed a concept called money, and it hurt our ability to connect with one another. Not everyone's like this, it's just an example, but I hope this helps clear up what I meant here. This one's from a pastor named Andy who had a few points, and I'm just going to cover the ones that I haven't touched on already. Baptist pastor here. I was really intrigued when you opened the video with the promise of challenging ideas, but honestly, your section on religion in this video has come across as disingenuous. You challenged me, so here's my challenge for you. Firstly, you grossly oversimplify the tenets of Christian faith. This disappoints me because you claim your videos to be someone who's always open to learn and challenging yourself, and yet as someone who's studied Christian theology of all stripes for many years, it sounds like you did absolutely no study. If you had, you'd know that there are many different positions on stories like the story of Jonah. A lot of theologians take this as a metaphorical story and not a literal one. And I've already covered this, but I want to be more specific. Eastern religions are very fascinating. Their goal tends to be more for spiritual oneness, mindfulness, interconnectedness, and the teachings don't seem to try to dictate your life and how you look at it. I'm also aware that there are many Western religions out there that look at the Bible differently, and to just discredit all of them is an ignorant thing to do. I know I came across as the kind of guy who does that, but you have to understand that this video had a larger point. Generalizations had to be made to get everything that I wanted to say out there. And if you ever want to know my full thoughts on this stuff, I'd have no issues making think pieces on specific religions or worldviews. Alright, let's get back to the pastor. Second, you dismissed what religion is trying to offer without any reason for dismissing it. You claim that supernatural events in the Bible should be interpreted through naturalistic perspective, yet the entire point of religion is to argue that naturalism doesn't give us meaning and purpose, and that we need to look somewhere else to find it. People like me are not content in living in a world that is simply this physical realm. We believe there's something else that human nature seeks for finding meaning. Without religion, you have to live life pretending that meaning exists when it really doesn't. Even Richard Dawkins acknowledges this. This is the basic philosophy that most religions operate under. Okay, so I'm going to cut you off there. Religion seems to be a structure. Its purpose is to make you think as they do. Studying the Bible, studying the metaphysical, the concept of God and divinity, being spiritual, I have no issues with this. If you believe there's someone out there who's got your back, if you believe you can come to know and understand him, that's great, but discover it for yourself. As far as your ideas regarding purpose and meaning, it seems to me that we're the only being on this planet that gives meaning to things. I see a heart-shaped cloud and I make it symbolize that today's going to be a good day. But what the hell did that heart-shaped cloud have to do with anything? Realistically, it didn't even look like a human heart, just a symbol of a heart that we use. So again, what's it mean? Nature doesn't do that kind of thing. Let's say a little bunny's overpowered by a larger one. It's taken advantage of, and the larger one then takes off. Does the little bunny gather a court together and try to figure out what's going on? No, it probably gets a little traumatized and moves on with its life. Nature is indifferent, and it remains this way because meaning and purpose are concepts that we develop because we believe ourselves above nature for some reason. That all of this was made for us, which is incredibly presumptuous of us and offers nothing to anyone other than the feeling of security with absolutely no evidence. We got a comment from Bud here that says, "Oh, how I've missed this side of you, Barry. A problem I've really started noticing lately is the most willfully ignorant people tend to speak the loudest. People will misunderstand how the world works in the loudest way possible. I feel this is because having their opinions challenged requires them to actually formulate and justify their own beliefs. They hate this because they can't. Take your annoying family member that blindly posts on Facebook all day long about how Trump is saving the world, for example. Everyone has at least one. If you challenge someone like that on their values and belief structure, one of four things will happen. They'll ignore your argument and attempt to insult you. They'll repeat themselves until you're fed up in the conversation. They think they've won. They'll just ignore for fear of confrontation and having to admit wrong, or they'll wait for someone else who's more educated on the subject to defend it, and they'll say, yeah, I believe what they said. This mindset seems far too prevalent and it's a bit scary. I feel like a big focus of education should be based on not being afraid of intellectually challenging oneself. If you're incapable of justifying your beliefs, you probably shouldn't be believing them. We should be educating people on how to scrutinize the world around them and not just accept it. Then again, that's the opposite of what the world wants. A population of freethinkers is an enemy to organized government. I often wonder about this actually. I ask myself, is it worth it to tell anyone about the things that I think? I tend to get a few different kinds of replies, either people talking out of their butts because they didn't listen or couldn't follow, people who are so strongly attached to their ideas that they won't let anything in, and for me that's irritating. I can come off as the kind of guy who isn't listening, who won't take people's ideas seriously, but that's never how I've been. I want as much info as I can possibly get, and over time, I've learned that sharing these kinds of ideas leads me to very interesting people. People who've thought far beyond me and helped me understand where others are coming from. So no matter how useless it feels, I think sharing is worth the risk of looking like an opinionated idiot. There were so many amazing replies in the comments to that video, and I wish I could have gotten to all of them. Perhaps I'll set up a podcast someday so we can just chat about all these things in a more open format. I know I'm dumb, and I'm working on it. And using you guys to bounce ideas off of all these years has really helped me grow a lot as a person. I just wanted to thank you guys for letting me share and for sharing back. I can't tell you what it means to me. I'll make sure to work harder on videos this quarantine season and bring back some old series that you guys have been begging for. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.